Hello and welcome to another video. We're going to state the outlines very quickly. We're going to come up with a list of 3 tests for multiple students, 3 quizzes and 2 projects. Then we're gonna calculate the score that the students are gonna get based on the fact that the tests weigh 60% of the overall grade, the quiz is 15%, and the project 25%. Of course, this rate could change as long as the addition of all these 3% is going to be 100%. After that, we're going to assign a passing grade if the score is greater than or equal to 80. Otherwise, the person is going to fail. I just wanted to connect this video to a video after this where we're going to be counting the letter grade like A, B, C, D, F, where we're going to have multi conditions. So I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to cut it into 2, and this is an introduction to what's going to follow as well. Also, we're going to be learning in this video how to write the data fast and also to utilize the fill handle, which is the lower right corner, as we all know, very effectively. So let's go ahead and make up 3 names, and notice what is applicable to 3 is applicable to 300,000 all the way up to 1,000,000 rows we have per sheet. So let's say we have John here, we have Susie, and we have Mary. And as you notice, if I wanted to write 3 tests, I will type test 01. I like to put 2 digits at the end just in case I exceeded 9, so it'll be aligned. And then we could go ahead and realize that with the test 1, we have a digit or a number at the end of that word. The fill handle will act on it and increment it, as you notice. The same thing for quizzes. If I name quiz 01 or 1, since I have 3 of them, here are the headers or the label for that columns later. Also project, so we're going to go ahead and say project 01, and since we have 2 projects, and here we go. We're going to go ahead and get the score. This is my calculation. This is what I need to calculate based on the weight. I'm going to write the weights here for one major reason, just in case the professor ended up changing her mind or his mind about what would be the weight of each criteria. So now it's 60%. We're going to go ahead and put it, and also we're going to say quizzes is 15%, and also the project, regardless of how many of them, are going to be 25. In this case, they are. I want to make sure, want to check that the sum of all of those, we need to make sure, and we'll revisit that after we learn about the if function, how to do certain things with that value. But notice here the sum of all these typed equals sum, followed by the tab key, and I'm going to go ahead and type start equal sum equal, of course, always must be there in order to get the calculation going on for us. So obviously this is 100%. If it's not 100%, something wrong about the weights the way I chose. Also, one thing, since we are learning how to do things correctly from the beginning, all this area for the 3 tests, the quizzes, and the project must have a value between 0 and 100. So anytime you do type anything other than the values between 0 and 100, it should remind you that you committed a big mistake. So how do we validate this area? We're going to go ahead and select it first of all, and then we're going to go to the data ribbon, and then go to the data validation, then go to the data validation option here. I'm going to choose to have a whole number. That means there is no fraction or decimal points, and the value should be between 0, as you notice here, and 100. But also I'll remind myself or the user who's going to use my spreadsheet what to do This is actually the style, which is a stop is the more restrictive. Then I'll say here maybe something like a humorous, wake up, or let's say notice. You must enter a value between 0 and 100. And this way, notice here for the whole area, if I entered here, let's say 89, it's going to allow me, no problem. If I enter 110, we're going to get that error. You must enter, notice that you must enter a value between 0 and 100, which is extremely good in order to avoid the problem before it takes place. And here we go. So we're going to go ahead and say 100. And the remaining of the data, just very quickly here, I'm going to create from the beginning a random between just to fill the data very quickly. Time is very critical with these videos. And so we're going to go ahead and hit random between, or hit the tab key in this case. I'm going to go ahead and say between 50 and 100. We're going to be generous now by not giving anybody less than 50 as a grade for any one of them. So I notice here I could go ahead and use the fill handle to fill the random between, and also to go down. So I got all this data. This data I'm going to change all the time because this is a function. If you notice, if I click on this, any of these cells, it's going to show me the function. So I need to turn this value, which is a very interesting and powerful feature that you should take care of it at the from the very beginning of learning Excel. Is first of all to go to the home ribbon, copy it, and then if you want to hide or stop the random between function to activate itself, just paste it as a value that will kill the function and leave the score. So now this is the final score. Obviously it's not going to change anymore because it's became constants. There is no function to regenerate it, which is a good feature to know. If you notice also the marching ends, this means something being copied or cut. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the escape key. All right, so what are we going to do? How are we going to calculate the score? Of course, you could pause the video and think about it, which would be my recommendation, to brainstorm with yourself or with another person next to you to see how you're going to approach the problem solving here, which is Excel is a tool no matter how you look at it. So the problem solving is the thinking process, really what I am after mostly. I want you to know, I'm going to be quiet here for a second. Go ahead and pause your video, think about it, and come back in 2-3 minutes. Now we're back, so let's go ahead and think about it. Notice the 3 tests are going to be contributing 60% of the grade to the overall grade. So I need to take their average, multiply it by this weight, then take the average of the quizzes, multiply it by whatever weight we chose for them, which we should be able to change it to if we want to, because I'm going to be use the absolute address, the concept that we have learned in the previous video, in order to allow me to change those here without violating the computation. And the same thing for this is going to be for these for 25%. If we take their average, then multiply by the weight of the project. So here we go. We're going to do the whole thing in one big formula, a formula that will include function in it. So we're going to go ahead and start with average. If you notice, I'm going to use the tab key heavily. So the average of all these and multiplied by this percentage. However, knowing that I'm going to be using the fill handle later, the average of C7 through E7 must be relative, meaning it should be a change once I do the fill handle. However, the D12, since it's standing here by itself, of course it's going to really wreak havoc if I ended up not locking it. So I'm going to hit the F4. If you have a laptop, you have to press Fin, then F4. If you have a Mac, then you have to press the control key, F4. Then we're going to go ahead and say plus the average of these 3, the quizzes, and close that and multiply that by this percentage, and we're going to lock this as well, and then we're going to say the average of these two projects multiplied by the weight for the project, and we're going to lock it as well. If we don't lock it one more time, it's going to get a big problem. So here we go. This is the first score, and we're going to go ahead and double click the fill handler in order to get the other scores. Notice, because I lock those, as long as they add up to 100%, no problem. If I wanted to go ahead and put the quizzes to be 10% and the project is at 20%, that will work, because I changed the weight of each of those, since I use those as an absolute address, which gives you the flexibility to do it that way. Wonderful. Now we're going to go ahead and leave that here, and maybe reduce that to only 2 digits to the right of the decimal points. Okay, and notice here we're going to go ahead and just give a pass P for passing if the score is greater than or equal to 80. If it's less than 80, it's going to fail. So let's go ahead and say pass or fail. There's no grade here, pass or fail. And we're going to go ahead and say, how are we going to come up with this? Now, since I have two choice, the greater than or equal to, is very important to realize this is a different type of operator than the operator we discussed earlier when we talked about how Excel does its own mathematics. This is called relational operator or comparison operator. So it's used to compare two values or two variables or one variable, one constant. And it's very interesting to go over one of them. Actually, we have 6 of them if you want to know what they are. They are the equal sign, the greater than or equal, the less than, and less than or equal. And of course, we have the unfamiliar one, which is the not equal, So this is, if I say to you here, 9 equal 9, please don't confuse the two equal sign. The first equal sign, it doesn't mean equality. It means that I'm about to compute the lift expression based on the rule of order. And in this case, I'm using actually the relational operators. I'm saying is 9 equal to 9, and whatever result you come up with, just go ahead and compute it. Is going to be, in this case, either true or false. Obviously, it's a true. If I say here 9 less than, let's go ahead and say greater than 99, that's absolutely not true. That's false. If I say to you 9 is greater than or equal to 3. This, some people get confused with it. It's nothing to it. If you say 9 greater than or equal to 3, it can be only one of the two, either greater than or equal to. As long as it's one of the two, it's going to be true. 9 is greater than 3, so we're already going to determine this is a true. If I say to you here 9 is less than 44, that's a true. If I said to you, look, let's go ahead and move in a different type of data like text. If I said to you, Zach, between double quotes, because this is a word, Zach is greater than Christopher, and I'm using this specifically, even though there is more letter in Christopher than Zach, but the first letter Zach is actually bigger than the C. So it's going to give me, if I say here less than or equal, of course, it's going to give me false, because Zach is not less than or equal to Christopher. Even there is many letters in Christopher then, but it takes one letter at a time. So Zach, in order to sort them alphabetically, this is how we sort them alphabetically. So in this case, Zach is not less than or equal to Christopher. It's going to give me false. And if I say here the letter F is not equal to the letter C, between double quotes, then it's going to give me true, because they are not equal. Like if I say here Sam is not equal to Andrew, then of course it's going to be true. If I say Andrew not equal to Andrew, that will give me false because Andrew is equal to Andrew. So this is very important to go over this. I'm glad I took my time, even resulted in a longer video, but still it's worth the effort and the time that you should spend on these videos. And now let's go ahead and talk about the if statement, or we call it a function in Excel. If you're doing any programming or have programming background, you will call it if statement. We start with if. This is the name of the function. After open parentheses, we're going to see if the score is greater than or equal to 80. This is the cut, 80. If that is the case, since we are going to display a text as a result of the action, if that is true, then we're going to give them the P. Otherwise, we're going to give them F for fail. Let's go ahead and revisit this one more time. I'm saying here if, that's a test to select between two actions, just like when you drive it through a sign, you have to stop. If it's red, green, you could go through. We will worry about the yellow later in a future video where we have that option as well, but we do have the A, B, C, D, E. Anyway, it's going to result either with true or false. If it's the true, then whatever follows the first comma, which should be really read as else, take the B. Otherwise, which is the second comma, take the F. You cannot get B and F at the same time. It's impossible. You're going to get one or the other. But if this is a true, you'll take what follows the first comma. If this is false, you're going to take whatever you decided to be the action, your action, which is in this case to display the letter F, if this is false. So if K7, it means if 62.53 is greater than or equal to 80, then show me P, because this person actually passed. Otherwise, show me F, because K7 is not equal or greater than 80. In this case, 62.53 is not greater than or equal to 80, so immediately it's going to go to the else side of the function, which is the F. And we're going to go ahead and do that. The same thing in the next one. 82.72 is greater than or equal to 80, so it's going to choose the P. And the same thing for the last one here, it's going to choose the P. Any changes, if I took this 0, this is immediately going to change the weight or the contribution of the test. It's going to give me 60.3, which means it's less than 80, and that's going to give me A, and F. Make sure that when you do it for one, it should be done with the ability to change your mind about the values. Okay, and we could go ahead and do something like this just to make it look good. And here we go, we're going to make it a black background with white text, just to give you some. Again, go ahead and steal that with the painter brush to select all these. Here we go. And also maybe this will give you a light color, a pleasant color, like maybe the orange, because this is golden, because we are TLU. Thank you so much for watching another video, and hopefully my future video is going to be shorter. Thanks a lot.